Talk with Bajaj podcast series. Thank you for joining in for today's show. How are you
Oh,
doing?
absolutely. I'm doing good, Shweta. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. So, tell us about you. What's your story? Let's start with there.
Sure, absolutely. And before I begin, thank you to you for the invitation. And it's a joy to be here building this conversation with you on a topic that is personally both exciting and inspiring for me. Storytelling and leadership. Such a powerful combination, is it not?
Absolutely.
Talk about my story. I come from Uttarakhand. I was very fortunate, Shweta, to have grown up in a very remote town of Uttarakhand called Podhar, and it had this beautiful view of a 130-degree view of the snow-capped, majestic Himalayas. So, as a child growing up on the terrace of my home every day, admiring this majestic nature right in front of you, mesmerizing, that's where my story has started. It's had a deep impact on me because every time I looked at this massive nature, I was reminded as humans how small we are in the scheme of things. And that realization has helped me to stay humble, to stay grounded. Thankfully, it's taught me not to get overwhelmed with my situation and just remain on ground towards the course of life. And I think that's one of the conscious leadership attributes that have come to me through that journey. From a corporate side, I've worn different hats. I started off with operations, then moved to quality, did a lot of learning and development, loved that part of it, very passionate about L&D. And then eventually in the last leg of my career, I was more of an HR and human resource person. So organically, I've moved, not by choice. I always say that, it's part destiny and part destination to where I found myself flowing naturally like the river flows its natural course. But one thing that stood out for me throughout this different lens and different functions and domains that I've handled, it was storytelling that really worked for me because either when I was either designing an onboarding journey for new employees or knitting different pieces of employee value proposition, or it was about leading a workshop for the leaders, or handling a tough situation, or even motivating team. Stories have been my bridge. They've helped me make meaning out of the metrics. But most importantly, personally for me, it's stories have brought the heart into my conversation. And I think that's where I've been able to connect with a lot of people at a personal level. So that's the journey. And today, in November 2023, I transitioned to a full-time executive and leadership coach. Again, part destiny and part direction, I would believe. But today, as in that role, I'm inspired to help leaders uncover their learnings, their stories, because I believe and our theme is conscious leadership. So, conscious leadership to me, it doesn't really build up in meeting rooms. It builds up or develops in reflection, in the narratives that we hold and how we reshape them. So that's my story in brief. Thank you for asking.
Amazing, amazing, Kenneth. I can see the spark in your eyes and the way you are speaking. Storytelling, how leader defines story, and how, like, now you are sharing your story. It's definitely tell us and reflect that how storytelling weave in your story and how you narrate it very well. As you mentioned, it help people to connect. Majorly, leaders use this. To make great teams to build it very well. So tell us, like, why storytelling? What you believe, like, why for conscious leadership, how a leader or a team player or a manager can weave very good story, because people lack stories. They don't know how to say. So yes, what do you think?
Let me start by saying, Shweta, that each one of us, we have stories within us. So it's not that we lack stories, but what probably needs to be consciously focused upon is how we share our story, what we bring to our stories. And before I dive a little more into that, I think it's you asked what makes storytelling important today. I think the world that we live in today is fast paced. Everything is happening at a blink of an eye. The new age, cutting edge technologies are changing everything that we know how it existed. The AI, the bots, the machine learning. So in midst of all that is moving very fast, storytelling has that potential to slow things down for us. Like that's important to understand. It's through stories that we can slow just enough to feel, to listen, and to lead with purpose and intention. So if we only box storytelling to something that is for entertainment, or it is maybe one of the communication techniques, we would not really be doing justice to the power of storytelling and the impact that it creates. So, storytelling, in that sense, for me personally, is conscious leadership in practice, because stories, if they help people come out with their values, with their cultures, and it nudges transformation. And you would have heard this many times before as well, that stories do not only inform, they transform. And as an executive and leadership coach, I've had the privilege day in and day out. I would say that I'm blessed in that sense that I get to be a part of so many leaders, their stories, their transition, and their transformation, that I can confidently tell you that it works. It works at a ground level. Another beautiful way to look at storytelling and its impact is through this quote that personally means a lot to me. And I think it elevates the value of why storytelling is important. It comes from a person called Philip Pullman, and he says that after nourishment, shelter, and companionship, what the world needs most is stories. And that takes me right to Maslow's hierarchy of need. you know so if you ask me, stories rank at the top of the pyramid when it comes to the Maslow's hierarchy of need, because it's only through stories that we are able to make sense of our lives. We are able to understand our purpose, our environment, and perhaps connect with something bigger than ourselves. So in that context, why storytelling? I would say storytelling is not just nice to have, it is an essential to have for human beings to thrive, right? Um, what else do I say? So I think in the context of conscious leadership, what is important to remember is that conscious leadership to me is leadership at the highest level of awareness, alignment, and accountability. So if any leader wants to be a storyteller, one question that every leader should ask themselves is, what story am I telling myself as a leader? I think it begins from there, because leadership is an inside out approach. Often, Shweta, the decisions that we make, whether in professional life or in personal life, they don't so much come from the strategy or the vision. Rather, the decisions that we take comes from the stories behind our strategies and our vision, right? So a conscious leader leveraging on storytelling as its superpower would not only lead from knowledge, from skill, from competencies, they would lead from self-awareness. Conscious leadership using storytelling is not really about proving something. It is about serving something. um, you know. And then another activist and an academic by the name of Angela Davis, I think she nails the importance of storytelling and why it should matter to leaders. So she says that to become more leaderful in everything that we do, right? You have to know what you stand for. And it's only through stories that you recognize through values. What are your values and the stories that you build around your values? You're able to understand what is important to you. Now, I'll give you a personal example where conscious leadership and the importance of it was really sown as a seed in me and where my journey began. So this is back in the year 2006, where I was working for Wipro Technologies, and I had this 60 to 90 seconds conversation with my first reporting manager by the name of Mr. Tarun Bajaj. So it was a year where I had got promotion. After a year and a half of hard work, consistent performance, I finally got promoted. So as you can imagine, I was overjoyed, out of the moon, very excited. But 1 month, Shweta, just 1 month into that role, where from an individual contributor, only being responsible for my performance, I was shifted into this management role where I had to lead a team. And suddenly I had to worry and be responsible and accountable for their performance. 1 month, I went back to my reporting manager and said, "This is not for me. I can't handle it," because I was struggling. I was failing to understand that if I can perform, what is coming in the way for these team members to really do well? If I can have that energy and enthusiasm for my work, why don't I see it in them? So I went to my reporting manager and I said, "This is where I am. I think it's not going to work for me." In that moment, what he shared and said with me has helped me shape and become the leader that I am and become the conscious leader that I am. So he said, "From here on, now that you've got promoted, from here on, for the rest of your career, it's no longer about you, but it's about them, the people, the team, who you are taking care of, who you are serving. That is what is more important." And he said that the greatest accomplishment in your career, once you look back and see, what has been absolutely fascinating, given me a high sense of accomplishment, it would not be so much of what you did with your career, but it would be with how many leaders were you able to create? How many Kenneths were you able to clone? How many individual employees were you able to impact not just their professional world, but their personal life such that they became the best version of themselves? And I was stunned. I was like, okay, this kind of makes sense. So it took time for me to digest it. But once I got hold of the idea that as a conscious leader, it's not about me anymore, it's about the people, I think that has shaped me of who I am today.
It's great, actually. Amazing story. And as you shared your story here, where a conscious leader only know how they want to groom their team. And yeah, it's wonderful. Also, I want to know from you, Kenneth, like as you mentioned, AI, people are like technology is going and booming forward. What do you think? Like, if we say future-proof leader, how we can build future-proof leader by using storytelling in nowadays? Now the culture, workplace culture, as it's evolving.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. And in that context of it, again, there's this recognition that storytelling is more powerful today than ever before. So there was this Gallup survey in 2023 that stated that 80% of the employees feel disengaged if leadership communication lacks meaning or personal connection. And this is 2023. So we are in that state, in that era of AI and everything being impacted and influenced by AI. But what you need at a ground as a basic core human need is to have communications, is to have authentic conversations that are led by stories that reveal who you are as a person and allows you to make that personal connection. So irrespective of how the technology is going to evolve, storytelling is going to stay. It's going to stay where exactly it is. Couple of more reasons what makes it important is with the technologies coming in to improve our lives and make things better for us, at the same time, it has created this world which is complex. So for a leader today, he's not just managing tasks, he's managing and holding space for uncertainty. With every evolution of technology, there is a sense of uncertainty. People suddenly, like today there's a lot of concern around, I'm going to lose my job. Jobs are going to be taken over by machines. So this leader today has to deal with all of that. The leader today also has to deal with a lot of constant changes. And with those uncertainties and changes, the leader today has to navigate human emotions. You saw the impact of COVID and what it did at a human emotional level to a lot of us, right? So people in that sense today, even with AI being as powerful as it is, I don't think they're looking for more instructions. They're searching for meaning, and storytelling is what's going to give them that exactly. Again, from the lens of technology, with the advent of social media and chat GPT, the information is everywhere. So it's no longer for me as an employee or as a leader, I'm not hooked to the data that is on the dashboard. I'm perhaps more interested in the story behind that data. Even neuroscience backs up this finding that when we share stories, the maximum part of our brain is activated when we are either sharing stories or listening to stories and not facts. Because it's these shared moments of meaning where storytelling makes connection. And it is the connection at the end of the day that fuels an organization's culture and nothing more. You know, more important today, Shweta, is we're in a workforce where there are multi generations coming together and working together, as good as six generations coming together. So you've got your millennials, your Gen Zs, your Alpha As, and another survey that was done by Deloitte on in the year 2021. It says that over 70% of Gen Z employees say that they want their leaders to not so much come in with vision and strategy, but they want leaders who come with the fact that they can lead with story and purpose, and not just strategy alone. So to me, in that sense, storytelling is not just a skill; it's a soul skill, right? It's what connects. Another interesting thing that's coming to my mind as I'm sharing this with you is the element of trust. So even with AI deeply impacting how we think, how we behave, and at times how we interact with the world today, it's only through authentic stories that you can build trust. And trust is such an important component to establish anything, to establish any relationship, not just professional, but at a personal level as well. So when leaders share real, unfiltered, imperfect stories, what are they communicating? They're saying that, I've been there, I've struggled too. Here's what I have learned. Trust also throws open that space for vulnerability. And it is important. I think one of the most crucial trait for a conscious leader today is being comfortable with vulnerability. Just to be vulnerable and say that, okay, I don't have answers to everything. I have made mistakes too. Owning up to their failures as well is such an important attribute of storytelling, which is going to empower anytime anything that an AI can bring.
Yes, indeed, I can say that because here, if we say about team dynamics and building the trust in team, making it a bond, where everyone can trust each other and grow further, their storytelling definitely help. So, Kenneth, as you mentioned here, that technology is booming, and from the lens of technology, you have shared very well. From the lens of a team manager, we see as you mentioned, like layoffs are going, nowadays, as we can see in the.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, if an employee, if we see from the lens of an employee, if we see from the lens of a manager, um, how they can use this storytelling to improve their communication? so that whether there is, I have seen people, they just get the layoff and they don't even say anything to their employees in a way so that, in a future there is a good bond. So what do you think, what are key elements of storytelling that make this team dynamics very well, you know?
Wonderful question, and very relevant and true to today's day and time. As a part of a leadership coach, I also work with a lot of in the space of career coaching as well. So I, on a day-to-day experience, what you're sharing, where somebody has got laid off, and the emotions that come across from there, it varies from person to person. A layoff could impact someone and he could just be devastated. Some become very angry. Some look at it like a betrayal. So you've been with an organization for years. I was just talking to my wife was sharing this with me, in fact, that there was this unfortunate event of a leader who's been in that organization for a good number of years, almost practically the prime youth given to the organization, had to be laid off and let go. So the impact is personal. So my thoughts and recommendation here from a lens of a storytelling to any employees who's undergoing this unfortunate event of layoff um, is to be mindful of few things. Now, one is when we say storytelling, we also have to be conscious and mindful of the ground reality. So thankfully today, as you and I speak, what the lens with which layoff was looked at maybe 5 years back, a decade back, has changed. So today, when layoff happens, it's not only a single direction outcome of maybe impacted because of performance. You have, with the way that the world, like I said, the dynamics of the business and how organizations are changing rapidly. It's more got to do today with financial stability, with structuring, with realigning of the strategy and values. So layoff today in that sense is somewhat more easy to observe for anyone. So an employee who's got laid off needs to be clear in their mindset that anyone that I meet next, any employer that I deal with next, any interview that I'm preparing for next, and the HR or the interview stakeholders that are interviewing me, they understand that layoff is not just only about your performance, it's an impact that can happen to different things. Layoff is not just in small, medium sized organizations, in startups, it's happening to the best and the top of multinationals, to Googles, to IBMs.
Yeah.
Now, with that awareness and just being mindful of that fact, it throws a lot of pressure that you bring on yourself when you say, the layoff has impacted me. Now, from a lens of a storytelling, my recommendation is always to rely on your strength, to know, to go back to the stories that have made you successful, to reflect, to pause and reflect and say, is this layoff defining who I am as a person? Or is it just one of the things that has happened to me? And I am much bigger, more purposeful than just this small blip in my career journey to make an impact where I can be thrown off track, where I can get angry, bitter, feel betrayed at times as well. So you need to go back and reflect into the journeys that have made you successful. And in that context, there is this researcher, Lucy, who I think puts it very beautifully. He says that every time, either as an employee or as a leader, we find ourselves in a challenging situation where we have to make tough decisions or something that happens with me which has impacted me, we have to, from a storytelling lens, take a pause, step back, and ask ourselves how I'm feeling, what am I going through, how I am thinking. Is that helping me or hurting me? Just starting with this simple question can help you bounce back as an employee, as a leader. And in fact, I would say not just bounce back, it can help you bounce forward from any adversities or any challenges in your life. So, from a framework of storytelling, this is the narrative that I would like to share for anyone in that unfortunate phase of layoff.
Great. Yeah, it will be helpful. So, Kenneth, for someone who is new to conscious storytelling, where would they begin? Like any three key takeaways or three key action tips you want to give them so that they can also integrate story in their day-to-day life, everyday leadership.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'd love to do that. And the moment you ask that question, a research and finding from International Coaching Federation, ICF, where that's the ecosystem that I'm a part of as an executive and leadership coach. They did a research and along with the Leadership Institute, came up with this finding that even in coaching, a coaching intervention that is more driven by narrative technique of storytelling is 2.5x more likely to lead a behavioral change. So, from a lens of where do you start, I would say the success mantra is coaching plus storytelling is equal to transformation. Now, for someone who's new to this concept of conscious leadership, let me probably share another personal story of mine that's helped me embark this journey, and maybe that story resonates with someone else, and they get this concept of where to begin. So this was back when I was in a boarding school in Nainital. Hopefully you've heard of it. It's a well-known tourist destination in Uttarakhand, and I was in this school there called St. Joseph's College, and this was when I was in grade ninth. So our class teacher, his name was, it was an Irish backed school. So we had not teachers, but they were brothers. So the brother's name was JP Murray. So he walks into the class, and there was this buzz prior to that there's this elocution contest that's going to come up. And he walks in the class and he says, for this grade 9, this inter-school elocution contest we would be represented by Kenneth. Now, it surprised me, but it shocked everyone else in the class because at that time, I was more of a sports person rather than someone who would want to be interested in elocution and academics. And there were definitely far better communicators and people, and my peers and students who had more effective communication skills than me. But if you know anything about boarding school, if you're told to do something and if you refuse, it has its consequences. So I said yes unwillingly. 3 days before this is where I started to feel nervous. And I said, rather than embarrassing myself on stage in front of hundreds of students, let me just gather the courage and walk up to my teacher and tell him that you still have time to pick someone else. You still got 3 days. So I walked up to his room, my heart beating. I could feel the sweat dripping back from my neck, but I was driven by the idea of embarrassment being lesser in one-on-one with him rather than on stage. So I told him, I said, it's not going to work for me. You still can pick someone else. I'm just too nervous, and I'm more than nervous. I don't feel I'm encouraged to do such, take this on. He paused. I was hoping he would pick up a cane. We had in boardings this famous bamboo cane, but he didn't do any of that. He just paused and was silent for I don't know, like maybe 30 seconds, but it seemed to me like 30 minutes. And after that, he said, Kenneth, he asked me a question. He said, Kenneth, do you want to be successful in life? So, I said, yes. He said, for you to be even an inch successful to what you hope to become one day, communication is what you need. So if you're going to ignore this opportunity and give up this chance of facing the demons of, putting yourself on stage and feeling bold and feeling empowered by communication skills, you're just going to get an inch closer to what you aspire to be successful. And that, even at that age, even in grade 9, it kind of shook me. I said, wow, like forget about being successful, just an inch to be successful of what I want. it's communication that's going to take me there.
Mm.
Absolutely. So I was thinking another important tool for anyone who's starting on this journey of storytelling and conscious leadership is the ability to ask good questions. Okay. And one of the things is like a small example. So, my younger daughter, who's 8 years old and is in grade 4, most of the times she would come back from school and we would ask her, how was school? How was your day? We'd always get one word answer: good. It wouldn't go beyond that. Till the time we changed the question and we asked her, one thing that you learned in school today that was new and very interesting for you. And that allowed space for her to ask or share, I did this and this was very important. And then you can I followed up by asking, so what was one thing perhaps that you didn't enjoy today? And that changed the narrative, that allowed her to come up with storytelling. So it's as good as, another simple example would be a why versus a what question. So as a leader, when I'm asking someone, why did you take that initiative? Versus when I ask the same question with a what and ask rather, what inspired you to take that initiative? Now, the inquiry is similar, but the outcome in the way the response you would receive now would be very different. So, one of the abilities is to also, when you're talking about storytelling, is how you're using your questions effectively. Another thing that it kind of reminds me of is one of my clients who I was having a coaching conversation with, a senior leader, VP of an operations. He was struggling with the team morale. So there was this restructuring that happened at the top. Management was changed, few team members were changed, and he was now, as a leader, struggling with the team's morale. So the details of the conversations were different, but as an outcome, what he took away as one of the actions that he would like to take forward is, in the next all hand meetings, he said that I would start with a story rather than talk about performance and data and what's not happening and what's happening. So the next time when he got into his meeting, he opened the story, a very simple story that he told me he narrated to his team from his childhood about losing a cricket match and how it taught him to regroup as a team after that. Now, this simple 2 minutes or 3 minutes story did for him what perhaps weeks of corporate messaging and team meetings couldn't. So it created that human connection. The team suddenly felt seen, and performance turned from something that they were struggling to an impactful 30% rise in the next following quarter. So that's the power of how storytelling can come and really move people. So I often say, Shweta, that a good story is something that builds your interests, intrigues your imagination. A great story is something which helps people move to action, compels them to take action. And the best of the best stories are the ones that stay with you long after the moment has gone.
Yes, just like stories stick, and the way you are telling, I mean, I stick to that story. I'm listening. I like, yeah, I want to listen more. I want to listen more. I think everyone here who was listening, think about that. Like, yeah, wow, yeah, wow. Now this is the story coming. Wow, this is the narrative coming. I mean, yeah, really, indeed, Kenneth, I want to appreciate you here that you have something inside you when you share something. It's like a stick in the people mind. As you mentioned, best of the best stories, and great leaders know how to share story very well. Thank you so much for that. And so one question I want to ask you: if your leadership journey were a book with three defining chapters, what would the title of those chapters be, and why?
Wow. So I think, Shweta, you've done well to embark on elevating your storytelling storytelling technique by getting such a powerful question. No, that's a really a wonderful question. Okay, so probably I'll put it as the first title would be the performer. And why I say the performer, because at the start of my career, my professional journey, it was all about chasing titles. It was all about proving myself. It was about letting others know that I am good. And importantly, also to seek validation. I wanted that approval from others and hear good things from others about me. And I think that's going to be the first title, the performer. From there, I think the second title that comes to my mind probably is the mirror. Because coaching happened, I discovered coaching, and with that came reflection, a very deep level of self awareness, and it allowed me to ask better questions to myself first. And instead of asking, what am I achieving? I think the transition, the shift happened towards me asking myself, who am I becoming? What is the kind of leader that I would like to be known? What is the leadership legacy that I would like to leave behind? And just as I got these thinking about these questions, I think I stopped chasing applause. I started more pursuing alignment. I learned how to pause, I learned how to listen. And like I said earlier, that journey from leading from inside out began. And the third part of the chapter or the title would be, I think, the bridge, because the role that I see myself doing today as an executive and leadership coach is to really be that bridge between people and their potential, between where they are, their struggles, to where they want to be, and importantly, who they want to become. And what kind of stories do they want to tell themselves. I think that's where I am today. So it's the lens of that bridge and storytelling where in my opinion it sets our leadership free. Um, yeah, I think that was a nice question. That's how I could best answer that.
Amazing. I hope you reflect your story back and you see, like, yes, a great chapter is, I think, you performer,
Yeah.
mirror, bridge. Amazing. Spectacular. So, yes, everyone, if you have any questions, if you want to interact, you can also come on the stage. And yes, you can unmute your mic, you can switch on your camera, and we would love to know your thoughts, your stories. You can come forward. Yes, you can unmute one by one.
Okay, actually, it is. He was my recruiting manager actually in 2011.
Okay, great.
Okay, so that's how it works. And when he says that, yes, stories that it takes a long journey for every person, and we cherish them. And the same examples we inherit in ourselves. Like he has shared one of the story about the uh, we need to respect the work that we are doing, or else the work is our worship. He has told the same story about regarding the building a cathedral. I don't know whether he remember it or not,
I
but
do.
he has shared the story. It is one of the eye opener for him. For me, in fact, it is not for him, but he was sharing to the team. He was heading the training and quality there, the organization. He has shared like where a person in the morning walk. He was going on a walk, and suddenly he saw a person. Then he asked, okay, he was on a heavy stone, a person was chiseling. Then he was getting the shapes for a particular stone. Then the person who is on work, he asked him, what you are doing? So it was so, I said with the angry mood, and he was saying that I can't see what I'm doing. Okay. So after going somewhat of farther, the furthermore distance, there was another person doing the same work. And he asked him, what you're doing? Then he said that I'm contributing to build a cathedral. That is how he reflected his work. Do you remember, sir, the story?
Absolutely.
Actually, this is what actually I really cherish this story a lot.
Yeah, wonderful. I absolutely remember. In fact, while you started
Actually, when
talking
it
about
comes to the current generation, these guys need it. Actually, it is this way.
it,
That is
I could not just remember the story, Anil. I could remember the room, the training room that we were in, where I shared this story. And if put little mind, I could also remember what I was wearing. So, Shweta, this was about
school
perception.
that
It
you
was about
guys
perception.
lived in 2011.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So this is a perception, while someone who's got a hammer and is breaking the stones and is continuously hitting and hitting and trying to break the rock, and they're sweating. When someone asks them what you're doing, this guy is frustrated with his work. He's not enjoying his work. He's sweating it out and he's feeling frustrated. So he replies to the person in anger, can't you see I'm breaking rocks? And the person like, oh, okay, all right, never mind. I just asked. He moves ahead, sees another person, gets the same response, and the person feels, okay, maybe I'm in the wrong place. And just about when he's walking forward, and it's a bend, and just crossing the bend, he sees another person doing it, and he said, let me just try my luck and ask this last one. So he walks up to this person, and again, the same thing. He's got the hammer, he's breaking, and he's hitting against the rock. And he says, what are you doing? And this person says that I am contributing towards building one of the most beautiful cathedrals in the world. So the same job, the same heat, the same pressure, the same sweat, but different people see things differently. And that's where, what Anil is talking about, the work that we do every day. How do we see our work? Do we see it challenging, boring? I just have to do it for the sake of money. Or are you able to find meaning in what you're doing, such that it uplifts you and helps you contribute towards making something beautiful for yourself, for others, for the world? So I think that's the story. And I'm so glad. So this is Shweta 2011, and
Oh
he
my God.
remembers till date.
You can see stories now stick is a real example. People remember
Absolutely.
2011. Yes, Swati.
Hi Shweta, hi Kenneth, and hello
Hello.
everyone. So Shweta, for me, actually, I'm based out of Mumbai, and this is the first time I am attending such kind of a session. This is completely a new learning to me. I am always into a business operations. My entire experience from past 20 plus years, I'm working into the back end operational work only. So this is as a course, as a journey. I thought let me join this session and to understand what exactly is the storytelling. So, being a student from a vernacular medium, I'm always having a fear in my mind how to communicate and always having that stage fear in my mind. And when now Kenneth has shared the stories about his class ninth, and that has really inspired me a lot that if you wanted to become a successful in your life, communication is really, really must. And other story which I liked about him, the story which he told about his daughter. So the same things happens with me as well when my son comes from school and when I ask him the question, the same two word answers I always get from him. So now I learn from him that how to make him activate to tell more about his days, how he spent. So this is really a good and Kenneth, your stories are really inspiring, and I feel like to listen it continuously. Thank you so much. Shweta.
Thank you,
Would
Swati,
love to
for
have some
kind
more
words.
sessions further with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, pretty.
Yeah, hello everyone. It was such a wonderful session and I enjoyed, and actually I joined at 12:30 I think, or 12:25.
Mm.
So I was just checking the WhatsApp messages and I came across with your message and I thought, oh, something is going on, so I can also join. So and I found it like it's a very wonderful session, and so thanks to everyone and gratitude. I'm so grateful for such a wonderful like things I'm able to join. So yes, storytelling. Yeah, we also use the storytelling in our sessions. So I also got a lot of new points, how to interact, how to ask questions, and how we can get the best things from the like those who are listening us or those who are uh, sitting in front of us. So thanks to everyone.
Preeti, from
Thank
where you
you
are
for joining.
joining and what you do?
Actually, I'm a dedicated sister in Brahma Kumaris.
Oh, good. Okay.
At present, I'm in Hyderabad since like more than 11 years. I'm in Hyderabad only. And yes, we also keep on taking sessions
I know.
on different like personality development and positive thinking and like positive self-talk or relationship management. So we are good friends. So me and Shweta, we both are very good friends.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Preeti, for joining. Yeah,
Good to
thank you
know.
so much, Kenneth. One last
Thank
question
you.
from you. I want to know from you how anyone can meet you or ask, connect with you. First thing, I want to ask you that. How anyone
Yeah,
can
that's
connect with you.
that's simple. LinkedIn would be the preferred choice for professional connects, and I can share my URL. But my name is pretty unique, Shweta. So there are not going to be many Kenneth Wheeler. So anyone would search on LinkedIn would land on me. And yeah, there's a website as well to connect. And yeah.
Great. So, Kenneth, we are looking forward for more such sessions with you. And yes, thank you so much for joining, everyone. Thank you, Kenneth, for this wonderful story.